Hello guys, Late here. So this video will be about low life radius fire. The setup is really good for mapping, especially with the explode and ignite proliferations, but the single target DPS is pretty terrible. Now there is a way to scale the damage, but the crafting process can be pretty tedious. Because this is a niche build, you most likely have to craft your own stuff. So let me know in the comment if you guys would like to know more about the crafting. For this setup in particular, I try to make it as budget as possible. I spent something like 20 to 30 divine. It's not super cheap, but it's also not super expensive either. So this is like an early setup. It's pretty tanky. We have 16k energy shield and 3.5k net regens, meaning that regens is after you reduce the RF damage, because the RF still deal damage to you. So that's a pretty good amount of regen. So with that said, let's move into the setup. Let's begin from the chest. The ivory tower, this is the item that enables the build. So what ivory tower do, it gives you energy shield per 100 reserve life. So the more life you reserve, the more energy shield you're going to get. So for example, if I unreserve all my aura, you can see my energy shield go down to 5k. But if I reserve all my life, I do get a lot of energy shield. And Ivory Tower also gives decent amount of regens. 2% energy shield per second is pretty good. And the next one is Shepherd Touch. And Shepherd Touch gives us 1% energy shield per 10 strength. And this setup is you stacking life, but you also stacking strength, because there's only so much life you can stack. And strength is also giving life. So this is primarily strength stacker. And the second stat you're going to stack is life. And the third one is in, because in also give you energy shield. And for the scepter, this is Dune Kupiari, and this gives us 1% damage per 8 strength. Because we are stacking strength, we got quite a lot of increased damage from here. And for the shield, I'm using Rise of the Phoenix. For budget version, the Rise of the Phoenix is just a very obvious choice. It gives you maximum resistance, it gives you decent amount of regens, it gives you fire resistance, and it also gives you 10% movement speed when on low life, which we are always on low life. And for the belt, Cyclopean Coil, this is the best belt on the budget versions. Even on the mid budget, you're going to use this belt until you get something like Mage's Blood or Headhunter. Headhunter is really good for mapping, but I personally like Mage's Blood more. And for the amulet, I'm using Eyes of the Great Wolf. The most important mod is the attribute. The second mod, I go for regens, because early on with the budget setup, we do not have that many energy shield. 16k is okay, but it's not that much of energy shield. So having a lot of regen, that will keep us safe. And for the rings, I'm using several revelations. This one is corrupted. You have strength, you have intelligence. You don't really have to. But since this is a cheap unique, the corruption is not really that expensive. I think I buy this one for like 100C. And the important part about this ring is you have to put it on the right slot, because if you put it on the left slot, you cannot recharge or regenerate your energy shield, which is bad for us. But on the right slot, it gives 6% energy shield per second, which is a huge amount of energy shield. So early on, this is the ring that I'm going to use, and you're going to use this ring for quite a while, because the replacement for this ring is a synthesized ring with percentage strength, percentage life, and percentage intelligence on the implicit. And that is a very expensive craft. So 7 Revelations is just a very good ring to use early on. And for the helmet, this is the helmet that I'm using. It has 500 energy shield as a base, which is contribute a lot for the energy shield. This item is not that hard to craft. You can craft it pretty easily with Recombinator. You will need a lot of bases though, like a lot of Ritual Clad. But if you have a lot of Ritual Clad, you can craft this pretty easily with a combinator. And for the boots, I'm looking for strength. I'm using Essence of Rage, because naturally you cannot have strength on in base. And I'm looking for chaos resistance. In this instance, I happen to get intelligence too, which is pretty good, because we do not have many source of chaos resistance. So having chaos resistance here and there is really good. I tried to get chaos resistance on the suffix for the helmet, but it's get pretty expensive. So I just decided to not using chaos resistance there. And for the prefix, I basically just crafting movement speed and just call it a day. And for the implicit, there's a searing as an implicit, which is a red ichor. It's going to give you max fire rest, and you will need this 1% max fire rest. And the last one is the Vermilion Ring. And you can use Amethyst Ring too. That's not that bad. But I like to use Vermilion Ring because it does give life. This is also using Essence of Rage. It's going to give you strength, and I'm looking for dexterity, because you will need dexterity to meet the gem attribute requirements. And this one happens to give me also pretty decent amount of life. So this is the ring that I'm using. And for the flask, if you guys notice, I'm not using cross-cutting elixir, and the reason for that one is because of the Scavenger Ascendancy. Chevron Wrapping, it gives chaos damage taken to not bypass energy shield, which is usually covered by cross-cutting elixir. Traditionally, I will use this one, but because this is an event league and Scavenger have this node, and this make me to not have to care about cross-cutting elixir. That means we do not have to care about like flash regenerations or something like that. Because previously, when you have to use cross-cutting elixir, you have to make sure that this flash is on. If this flash goes off, any chaos damage will kill you because we only have 100 life, and chaos damage in default bypass energy shield. So for the flash that I'm using, the most important part is every flash will have a gain charge when you hit by an enemy, and this is for a very specific cases where you have some rare monster that for some reason do not get ignite proliferation and they do not die. And in that case, you really want to have your flash on and gain charges when you hit by an enemy. This is going to keep your flash charge mostly up. So the first one is Ruby Flash with gain charges and regen 3% life. The regen 3% life is a craft you get from Betrayal, and the 3% life is pretty good amount of regens. And the second one is Beast Mode because we do not cap the cold and lightning resistance, if you see over here. And how we cap it is by using this flash. And Beast Mode is a pretty easy flash to sustain. Another option for this, you can use RSN. That can add extra explosion, but RSN is pretty expensive, so I'm just go for Beast Mode. And the third one is Amethyst Flash. This obviously to give some chaos resistance. The next one is Quicksilver. And the important mod also on this one is chance to freeze, shock, and ignite. Because on the Scavenger node, if you see over here, we have obliterations. This gives you the explode. And the Sapper's Heart make your chaos damage able to ignite, chill, and shock. So, and because the obliteration damage is chaos damage, that means your chaos damage can ignite. But can ignite on PoE doesn't mean you will ignite. So you will still need the chance to ignite. And this is what this mod for. It gives 30% chance to ignite. This is not the only source chance to ignite. There's also one node over here. This gives 10% chance to ignite. And there's also a node over here. This gives 15% chance to ignite. So we do have pretty decent amount from the tree. We also have 20% over here. But this flash gives extra 30%, which is quite a lot of chances. And the last one is Sulfur Flash. This is basically a scuff version of Rational Doctrine. So basically when you use your cross-cutting elixir, it's going to spawn a consecrated crown. So what the consecrated crown do, it's going to give you life regens and it's going to reduce effect of curse. Now the life regen is the most important part because we have 4.8k regens. And if I press the Sulfur Flash, this go up to 5.8k. So the consecrated ground basically gives you 1000 regens just by its own. This is not going to be always active, and this is the reason why I'm not including consecrated ground on the POB, because it's not always active. But when it's active, it does give you quite a lot of regens. And this is, like I said, is a scuff versions of Rational Doctrine, because Rational Doctrine, your consecrated ground will be always there. And that's about the flash. And the next one, let's move into the passive tree. There's a one unique interaction that I need you guys to understand. And the first one is Yellowed Oath. And Yellowed Oath is what convert all the life regeneration into the energy shield regenerations. And because we're using blood magic, so blood magic gives us 10% more maximum life, so that's multiplicative. And this makes the node give us a lot of life, but the downside is your skill costs life and your skill going to reserve life instead of mana. So this is the reason why my aura reserve my life instead of mana, and that's also the reason why I do not have any mana at all. And the problem is when you do that, we only have 100 life because all the regions already transfer into energy shield. So while using your skills, you're going to run out of life. And the reason why I'm not running out of life is because I have the keystone 1 over here, Eternal Youth. The most important node is the energy shield recharge instead apply to life. And if I unallocate this node, if I cast my skills, I'm running out of life. There's no regen on life. I cannot cast anymore. But if I allocate this one, you're going to see the life suddenly have regenerations. And this is because of the recharge. And the recharge, it will always be on because the life never gets hit. I mean, if your life gets hit, you're probably going to die because we only have 100 life. But because the life is never get hit, the recharge is always on. And it's always going to keep recharging your life. And this is how you can always keep casting skills without any life regen at all. And also, if you look at the passive tree, the tree looks a little bit ridiculous because I'm basically walking around like a snake, if you see over here. And the reason why I'm parting like this is because of split personality. So what this geo will do, it's going to give you strength and intelligence to further away you from your starting locations. And this is the reason why I'm starting location over here. I'm trying to get the path really, really far So I keep getting more strength and more intelligence. So that's the reason why. And I have 2 split personality, and because it's limited to 2, and this one gives me 81, and this one gives me 85. And for the medium cluster, Fan of the Flame, and this is how the ignite spread. And another note is the Brush with Death. Now there's another option, you can go for Flow of Life or Burning Bright, but I like Brush with Death the most because it gives damage over time multiplier. That's pretty good DPS, but the most important part is recover 1% energy shield on kill. This thing on mapping is a really good recovery. So for the last cluster itself, the most important part is to make sure that you have 8 passive skills. That's the least amount of passive skill you can have on the last cluster jewel, and that's going to save your skill point. Now the node itself, there's a multiple options. There's a Burning Bright. Burning Bright is a better node, but it's pretty expensive, so I will suggest just find any node that gives you some sort of DPS, and that's pretty much fine. You do not need a specific node. And the main reason why we use last cluster jewel is to get 2 jewel socket over here. I'm also using Unnatural Instinct. This one is really not mandatory. If you see the list of the stats that you get, it gives you AoE, it gives you some regions, it gives you some strength and intelligence. It's a pretty good additions, but once again, it's not like this jewel is like super powerful or anything like that. It's really not that big of a deal. And the next one is Leader Pride. So Leader Pride is a timeless jewel. This jewel going to give you a lot of strength. So if you see over here, it gives me more strength, 2 strength per like small node. And for the notable, you can look for many combinations, but what I'm looking for is increased strength. On this particular setup, I have 2 of them. This one over here, 5% increased strength, and this one over here, 5 increased strength. I think this one is in life regions. I mean, the region is pretty nice, but it's not that big of a deal. The most important note is the 5% increased strength. And the next one is Impossible Escape. And what this jewel will do, it allow you to allocate a passive around a certain keystone. So one thing about the Impossible Escape you need to make sure is you need to make sure that it's set Legacy. This is going to give you a radius around the keystone Legacy, and this is where the passive, and this gives us access to this kind of node, and this give you energy shield, also give you life, and this is really good node because we're going to need both of them. So we have 4 node over here, and 1 node over here is Growth and Decay, is a decent amount of DPS, also give 1% regen, which is a pretty good. So I think that's all about the setup. And as usual, if you guys have any questions, leave in the comment below. I will try my best to answer it. I will probably try to push the build a little bit. I don't think I will go all the way because the synthesizer item is a really expensive craft. But there's a few craft that I can do to increase the damage by quite a bit. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day.